So we ended up seeing a move of over 18% to the downside. And you can see that ADA ended up tapping into our wave buy target, which sits between 66 cents to 69 cents. And this is something I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, where I mentioned how we could have a WX Y structure that's forming. And essentially, that's what ended up playing out. And part of the reason why we ended up seeing this move to the downside is because we ended up getting rejected at the lower trend line, which is something I've also talked about, where I mentioned how in order for us to be bullish, then we needed ADA to break out from the lower trend line and then see, higher highs. However, if ADA was to get rejected, then that will confirm that we are bearish and we could see lower lows, which is what took place over here, where we ended up breaking this low at around 72 cents, which resulted in a break of structure on smart money concept, which further confirmed that we were bearish. And that then led to a lower low, where we ended up breaking this low at around 71 cents, which further confirmed that we're bearish. And I'm assuming on the 4-hour chart that will show a change of character. And so at 71 cents, we ended up seeing this low being broken, which resulted in a change of character, which further confirmed that we're bearish. And we ended up tapping into this region here. So if I go back to the hourly chart, and within this move to the downside, in particular this one here, the Y wave, we had a WXY structure that ended up playing out. And so what I'll do very quickly is check to see if this Y wave met the typical requirements, which is anywhere between 1 to 1.236. So if I bring this to over here, and in fact, we ended up going slightly deeper and we reached the 1.618 retracement level. And so it's possible that we have a 5-wave move within a Y wave, where this would be our wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we could potentially see a lower low. And so essentially, assuming that this 4th wave is now complete, it could potentially go slightly deeper than this low here. And so if I remove this and remove this, and check to see if that Y wave also met the typical requirements. And so that typical requirements is within this range here between 64.94 cents to 67.21 cents. And so there is still potential that it could go even deeper. But of course, it's not a given the fact that we ended up tapping into our wave target. And so if I bring back the fib tool, actually, so that Y wave met the minimum requirement, which is a 61.8% retracement of the W wave. And so technically speaking, we don't necessarily have to go deeper towards this region here, and we could see that bounce to the upside where we can then see higher highs. And so if I remove this, and I'll keep that target as it is for now, and going back to what I was talking about in my previous video, I was looking at 2 key targets in particular, with one of them being this one here, where I mentioned how we could have either a WXY structure forming or a 5-wave move. And I was looking for this move here for ADA to reach anywhere between 75 to 76 cents. And essentially that's what ended up playing out. And as for this target, I was looking at for a 5-wave move where this was our wave 3, followed by a wave 4. And I was looking for a 5th-wave move to the downside where ADA would tap into this region here. But ultimately, we didn't tap into this region, which confirmed that we had a WXY structure that was forming. And so I'll remove that one, and I might as well remove this one also. And so it will be interesting to see what structure is actually forming right now. So if I zoom out, what you can see is this 5-wave move that I was tracking in the past, and then we have this WXY structure also. And so it's either we have a WXY structure that's forming to the top, where we could then potentially break this low here, this high rather, or we could have a 5-wave move to the upside. And so if we have a WXY structure, what I'll do is target out that Y wave, which would typically be a 1 to 1.236 retracement of the W wave. So moving this to over here, so ADA has the potential to reach anywhere between around 92 cents to 98 cents. So I'll just draw that in. And I might as well remove this target here. And you can see that the 1.236 retracement level sits at the upper trend line. And if ADA was to extend beyond the 1.236 retracement level, then it's possible that we are within an impulsive move where ADA can then test the 1.618 retracement level for the 3rd wave. And then we could see that retracement to the downside where we could potentially retest the upper trend line. And if we find support, then we could see that bounce to the upside to complete the 5th wave, which would then further confirm that we are bullish. Now, as far as the stochastic RSI goes, you can see that we are on the brink of being overbought, and on a 4-hour chart, we are within the oversold region, and the same can be said on the daily chart. And I've talked previously about how we are within the final phases of a shakeout. And in terms of this bull market, I do anticipate a slow and grinding race to the top, as opposed to previous bull markets where we saw huge price surges within a short time frame. So, for example, this bull market lasted just over a year, and we saw huge price surges to the top, whereas this bull market so far has been a slow and grinding race to the top, where we've seen huge price surges and huge dips. And so it's going to be a good opportunity to be making profits where, given the fact that we've seen a 18% drop to the downside, if ADA was to retest the local top at around 86 cents, we'll be looking at a move of around 26% to the upside. And so again, that'd be a good opportunity to be taking profits. And I do anticipate people taking profits, and we're going to see huge dips, and people will be buying in at low prices, which would then result in a bigger move to the upside, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I do anticipate a slow and grinding race to the top, but ultimately, I'm still looking at for ADA to potentially reach around $10. So yeah, that's just my update on Cardano ADA. Hopefully you found this useful, and if you did, then feel free to hit that like button, and if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Take it easy, people. Peace.